Hello, OWL members. I am thrilled to announce this month's Inside the OWL studio will feature Promedica International. Promedica International is a woman-owned clinical research organization which has been working with both established and startup companies for the past 38 years. They provide a wide range of specialized clinical study services for the medical device, biotechnology, and pharmaceutical industries with a proven track record of delivering quality results on time and on budget. Promedica has been a longtime supporter of OWL's mission and vision, particularly with our SoCal chapter, and we are grateful to have them as a uniting sponsor this year. So without further delay, I am pleased to welcome today's interviewee, Shannon Stoddard, MBA, President at Promedica International. Hi, Shannon.
Glad to be here.
Great. As you know, the OWL organization continually strives to create networking and educational opportunities to support the mission of advancing diversity and leadership. We find it hugely beneficial to hear from other organizations about their efforts around diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging. With that being said, I'm very excited to hear from you about Promedica's initiatives in this area. I'll hand it over to you, Shannon. Thanks.
I think this is a really great area, and being a woman-run company since its founding, I think all these areas of diversity and inclusion are one that we're really excited about and been promoting it for ever since we were founded in 1985. So we've been working definitely within our HR department. We don't have a set DEI program per se, but we're definitely working within our HR department on different trainings we've done with our teams. We have an annual HR day that we work with the our department, and we do videos on diversity and inclusion and have a lot of different programs on that to kind of give people a chance to learn more. We had a great one this year on biases. That's, I think, it's just sometimes great reminders for people on what is out there, just to get you thinking and talking with your teammates. So that was really exciting that we did this last year.
That's awesome. Could you give us a little bit more information on that particular program? We find it interesting to hear maybe your takeaways or some nuggets you kind of pulled from a particular program, something that really worked well, you thought, or even some dialogue that you overheard or someone commenting that, might give people some more insight.
Yeah, I think I'm trying to remember off the top of my head, it's been a few months now, but I think with the biases, with ones that, people having known biases, but just ones that you don't think about. And there's, something like they've studied, there's 50 different areas of biases, and there's, like 3 or 4 that they focused on within the meeting, within areas of, especially for HR. It was a really intriguing thing, and just thinking about maybe for me, looking at your history, or within your family's history and culture that you brought up, and what might be your biases. So when I'm, talking to somebody else, I'm taking that into account. Am I thinking of something that's not keeping my mind open to a new idea or new topic, because I'm already coming into maybe a negative idea of something that I'm not realizing. So that to me was where kind of having these reminder trainings is great, because you so easily go back into your old ways of doing things. And this kind of makes you kind of go, well, let me stop and think a little bit more about why I'm feeling so strongly one way or another. Is it really the right way to go? Or is there a bias that I'm not aware of that I'm bringing into something?
Yeah. And I loved, what you talked about, kind of, going back into your old patterns. How frequently does Promedica, have these programs? I think that's important too, because if there's a long gap, again, I think the consistency is important. So if you could give us some information there too, that'd be great.
We do this annually. And we have recently in the last year brought on a full-time HR administrator, and that's some of the things we're working on, is trying to do these more frequently than annually, because just like you mentioned, it's amazing how quickly you forget items. So trying to space them. And again, we used to do our HR day, it was like an all-day program, but maybe it's like, well, maybe we're going to break it up and do it over quarters or something like that, just again, so that people can be more frequently aware of it. And even to just this last year, we started doing a quarterly newsletter, and HR has a section within it. So, they'll bring up topics that they're hearing the team. We ask the team, is there something that you're interested in, and what can we provide? And it doesn't always have to do with diversity or inclusion, but those are topics that have come up in the past.
Yeah. So are your programs kind of hosted virtually, or do you have them live in person?
Last year, we did have it live in person because after all the COVID time with nobody could get together, and we've actually hired a lot of employees that live not within driving distance to our office. So last year we did host this in person and had everybody come out for 2 days, and so that, or 2.5 days. So that way we did partial HR activities along with just general company activities, and just got a chance to bond it with everybody. This year, we're going to do it remote, and we're thinking we might switch off years between remote and in person. But it's great to do things in person every once in a while, because you just don't have a chance to see everybody when everybody lives so far away, and to get that bonding as well. And luckily, being a small company, we can't have everybody come into the office. I'm sure with a few hundred or more thousands of employees, that'd be a little harder. But
yeah, no, I'm glad to hear that. I think in person, particularly with certain topics, it's always nice if you can do it that way. But, what we found at OWL is, we do have in-person meetings, but what we found, it's very easy. So if you're having a meeting, say once a year, you could very easily complement that with a much shorter, say, virtual reminder program. You know what I mean? That could complement that and increase that kind of frequency a little bit, and complement hopefully what you did in person. So just a thought.
What we're hoping to do within our HR department is fixing that and adding more of these programs, because I do think employees really appreciate it, and want to learn, and I'm wanting to be wanting to maximize everybody's not to say there's productivity, but just their own internal health and happiness, and giving a bigger picture on everything that goes in and how we all interact, because that makes for a good company, makes everybody happy at their job and wanting to do meaningful work.
I totally agree. And I think that's a great way to kind of end this conversation and maybe summarize that, giving employees that attention and that opportunity, not only to make them happy, but enjoy the place that they work. And I think you're seeing that more and more. How are you drawing these employees in? So I think that's great. So on that note, do you have anything else you'd like to add before we head into our questions for the day?
I think that's
okay. All right. So what is your favorite word in eye care?
I know it's funny. I was kind of thinking about this, and I was like, I feel like it sounds a little cheesy, but I like vision. I mean, you have so many different meanings of it. It's especially doing the clinical research studies that we do in ophthalmology. That's one of your main endpoints in the study is how's everybody's vision, and are you able to improve vision in these people who can maybe only count fingers or something, and then also just what's a vision for the company or your employee vision for their future. It has so many areas within it, so I kind of think that's a nice one in a cheesy kind of sense.
Oh, I agree. And I don't think it's cheesy, but what is your least favorite word?
So my background is I'm an engineer and I'm a math person, not an English major. So even after 25 years here,
I know what you're going to say.
That THTH, gets me every time. Like, where's spell check?
It's a tough one. I mean, it really is. You have to give it to people, honestly.
Easiest one, but
yeah. What professional role kind of in eye care would you want to try that you haven't before?
Well, and nobody would probably ever let me, but I think being a surgeon would be really fun. But gosh, the years that doctors have to go in and having that technique to go into such a small area of the eye and do what they do to, restore vision. And I think it's pretty neat. So
I agree 100%.
And see what they do in there, and it's crazy.
What role would you not want to attempt and why?
Being an ophthalmologist and actually where if they're seeing patients every day, especially the techs who have to do, or even the doctors who are doing your manifest refraction. I get annoyed at myself when they say is one or two better or worse, and I'm like, they're the same. And I would probably get really annoyed with patients and be like, there's a difference. Tell me. Low patience for that.
Yeah, I agree. If you could do any one thing to contribute to diverse leadership in eye care, what would it be?
You know, I think joining organizations like OWL and trying to be more proactive in reaching out to different organizations. I think I tend to be a little bit more introverted and I don't always do that, but I think, and that's why I like what you guys do in the meetings you have, because and I know there's other organizations also like that, but just supporting that because you can't always get that, not all companies have it, or maybe where people aren't in company, they're not feel comfortable accessing their HR. But when you have these other organizations that you can join to help promote it, I think that's really great. And so putting support behind that, and then just supporting our internal team on what they can do so that, say they decide when they will leave, that they're bringing that knowledge out to other people. So I think as much as you can help and train other people on what diversity and equity and items are out there, the better, then they can be spreading that and bringing that to other companies and even other family members or people that they know, they could be letting know about these programs and it can start spreading. So.
Yeah, I think, too, leading by example, we talk about this at OWL all the time, you get out of it what you give. And I think that's really important too. But my last question for you, and I don't think you know this one, is if you had a superpower, what would it be and why?
Well, it's funny, as I've been having to do a whole bunch of traveling lately, I was like, flying would be nice. I can avoid the airports. But that is a little bit of a selfish superpower that would only help myself. Being able to make people or help people's memory and actually learning history. I hate that everybody you end up repeating it over and over again, and nobody seems to learn from past history. And I think that would be a great superpower if you could actually have people's brains recall what actually happened in history. And they didn't end up repeating it. Maybe it would help some of our situations going on in the world.
I agree. That's such an interesting answer. And I really love that, Shannon. That's very cool. And I agree. That would be so neat, wouldn't it?
Yeah, I would think so. It's like, the human brains are pretty fabulous, but there's certain areas that they are lacking.
Yeah. And I think that kind of translates too into just maybe people listening better to others and what's going on around them, but anyway, I think that does it for today's edition of Inside the OWL Studio. Shannon, thank you to you and Promedica for everything you do for OWL. I know too, you have helped us in the SoCal chapter, and it's so appreciated.
Thank you guys for letting us. It's been really great getting to know the team at OWL and working with you, and we love that the chapter is so close that we can help participate.
Absolutely. Have a great day.
Thank you so much.